This is my 7¼ inch gauge Black 5. I bought this engine in 1992 and it was part finished. In fact, as I was unloading the boxes from the car, my wife said to me, "Have you gone mad? You've paid how much for that?" It was a little bit like a scene from Jack and the Beanstalk. "You've sold the cow for 5 magic beans. Are you stupid or something?" A lot of people ask me why I use adjustable spanners, and I've been using them for years, and to prove this, here are a few words from my daughter.
Me with the spittle spanner.
Adjustable
Spanner.
She was 4 at the time, and now, in 2017, she is 29. And the adjustable spanner that my daughter Charlotte is referring to is the same one that I have today, my Barco. They're such good quality, you only have to buy them once. This is me driving the Black 5 in 1994, and it's pulling up the hill with total ease, just like it was pulling a bag of feathers. This was a really powerful engine. It was a little bit like riding a motorcycle. It had that kind of acceleration. Not a big motorcycle, you understand, only a small motorcycle, but it was still very powerful. The video quality by modern standards is poor, but it was okay at the time. I filmed it using a Panasonic M10 camcorder. This engine was a joy to behold and a joy to drive. I really regret having to sell it, but there are times in your life when you have to make a decision for the best. I had a young family and I needed to raise some money for a better house. I sold this engine to a man called Peter Clayton, who at the time was the secretary of the club, and he still runs it there. When I moved into the new house, I built a 7¼ inch gauge line round the garden. I built a 7¼ inch gauge titch and I run that round my house. It's just an 040. The gentleman driving the Black 5 at the moment was a friend of mine, the late Jack Scarth. During the day, if I wasn't working in my recording studio, I would be up at the track running one of my steam engines. In this clip, Jack's using one of the live steam injectors to put some water into the boiler before leaving the station. As soon as Jack opens the regulator, the engine starts to move off, and you will notice that the cylinder drain cocks are open to clear the condensate from the cylinders, because of course the first steam that hits a cold cylinder condenses to water, and this would cause a hydraulic lock unless the water could be released. And it's the same on the full size. Of course it would be much more serious to get a hydraulic lock on a full-size steam locomotive. When I first started running this Black 5, it had a really annoying squeak. Later on in this video, there's a view from the footplate, like a footplate ride on the Black 5, and you can clearly hear the squeaking on that section of the video. At this time, I frequently used to go up to West Riding Small Locomotive Society in the day and meet up with Jack, get one of my engines out of the shed, because I had a couple more up there at the time, and we'd give it a run, just to see how fast we could go around the track. We finally stopped going at this ridiculous speed when one of my engines, which was a 7¼ inch gauge titch, not the one I have at the moment, one I built years ago, came off the track and flew down the track on its side on the ballast. It made a right mess of it. But I'm afraid you do stupid things when you're young. I was 39 and Jack was 75. In this clip you can clearly hear the squeaking that drove me nuts for a while. As I was building this engine and finishing it off, I timed both sides of the engine individually, and then I put both of them together and the thing ran like a Swiss watch, and there was no squeaking on compressed air on the bench. And I thought to myself, what's going on here? I gave it a steam test in my workshop, and I remember that day quite well. I hadn't anticipated the amount of smoke this thing was going to make, so sitting on the bench in my garage workshop, it filled the garage with smoke very quickly. And it ran fine, no squeaking. What was the difference? The engine wasn't under load because it was jacked up on the bench, and I was using my own steam oil, not the steam oil that West Riding Small Locomotive Society supplied. All coal and oil was free to the members who were running and generally pulling passengers, but my supply back at the workshop was fine, so I started filling the lubricators with my own steam oil and the squeaking disappeared. My theory is that I must have been using a higher grade of steam oil because the superheaters on this engine went all the way through over the fire, and the steam going to the cylinders was incredibly hot. And I think it was probably carbonizing the oil from West Riding Small Locomotive Society. I used my own steam oil, the squeaking stopped, and the engine ran beautifully. And before I go, I would like to thank Mr. Randy Blackburn, who made an excellent job of building the boiler for this engine. I hope you've enjoyed this quick excursion into the past. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful.